Let's start this week with YouTube. When we see a famous YouTuber, it's easy to think he's naturally funny. He knows how to get attention. He has talent. He got lucky. Take HIKAKIN. For many people in Japan, he's not just a YouTuber. He's one of those people that helped make YouTuber feel like a real job. From the outside, his success can look simple. Make videos, be entertaining, get views, become famous, but that's just the outside view. And today, I want to slow down that outside view, because from the outside, success can often look like talent. But from the inside, it can often look like a process. In the past, HIKAKIN has said this: 毎日アップするというのはゴールのないマラソンのようなもの. Uploading every day is like a marathon with no goal line. I really like that image, a marathon without a goal line, because success is often imagined as one big moment, one lucky break, one big hit, one moment when everything changes. But this quote gives us a different picture. Not one magical moment, a long process. Ideas, filming, editing, uploading, learning, trying again, and then doing it again tomorrow. So today we're not really asking, does HIKAKIN have talent? He probably does. But that is not the most interesting question. The more interesting question is this: when we call someone talented, what do we stop seeing? And that is the question for today. We use the word talent all the time. She's talented. He's talented. They are gifted. They were born with genius. And usually we mean it as praise. Someone speaks English well and we say, wow, she has talent. Someone gives a great presentation and we say, he is a natural. Someone draws beautifully and we say, they were born with it. But there is a danger in this word. Not because it's always wrong, but because it's often incomplete. Talent can sound like an explanation, but sometimes it's only a label. And labels can stop our thinking too early. They can make success look natural, and they can make failure seem personal. Those labels can hide effort. They can hide practice and support, opportunity and failure. And they can hide the environment in which that success happened. So when we say talent, we sometimes stop asking better questions. Talent can close the questioning. And this matters, because the way that we explain others' success changes how we imagine our own future. If I look at someone successful and think they can do it because they have talent, then I may quickly think, I cannot do it because I do not have talent. That's a very small sentence, but it can become a wall. And this connects directly with this week's reading, 才能は百害あって一理なし. That's a very strong title, maybe even a shocking title. It sounds like the reading is saying talent is all bad. But I think the deeper point is more interesting than that. The reading is asking us to be suspicious about the word talent. Words like talent, genius, giftedness are all used very easily, and often they are used after we know the result. If someone succeeds, we say they had talent. If someone fails, we say that person is not so talented. But when someone succeeds, when we see that result, are we really seeing talent? Or are we seeing a result and then telling a story after seeing that result? That's a big difference. And that brings us to the first theory for today. Attribution theory. The story we attach to a result. Now, attribution theory sounds academic, but the basic idea is very simple. When something happens, we try to explain it. That explanation is called an attribution. For example, you think you did well on a test. You might think, I'm smart. I studied well. The test was easy. I got lucky. Now imagine you did badly on a test. You might think, I'm bad at this. I used the wrong study method. The test was difficult. I was tired. The result is one thing, and the story we tell about the result is a different thing altogether. And that story matters, because the story changes what we do next. The same result with a different story defines a different future. Now, I want to make this concrete. I want to give an example of this. Imagine two students. Both students give a presentation in English. Both students feel nervous. Both students forget some words. And both students finish and think, that didn't go very well. Student A says, I'm just bad at speaking English. I have no presentation talent. I'm not a good presenter. I'm not that kind of person. Student B, however, says, I need more practice speaking out loud. I need a better opening. I need some phrases for when I forget words. I need some feedback. Same result, different story, and different future. Student A's story closes the door. Student B's story opens up a next step. And that's why attribution matters. It's not just a theory in a textbook. It's about the meaning that we attach, the meaning that we attribute to what happens to us. And attribution theory often asks three simple questions. Is the cause of what happens inside of me or outside of me? Is the cause of what happens fixed or can it change? And lastly, can I influence that cause? Now think about the sentence, I have no talent. What kind of explanation is that? It usually means the problem is inside me and it's fixed and I can't really change it. That's why the talent story can be so dangerous. It does not only try to explain the past, but it also definitely shapes the future. If I think I failed because I used the wrong strategy, I can change the strategy. If I think I failed because I didn't have enough practice, then I can practice more. If I think I failed because I need help, then I can seek help. But if I think I failed because I have no talent, what can I do? Maybe nothing. So I stop. I stay quiet. I avoid the next chance. I choose only safe situations. And then, because I avoid the next chance, I don't improve. And then I say again, see, I have no talent. That story becomes a trap. The reading also helps us with another idea. Sometimes we judge people only by the result. This is close to what is often called outcome bias. The reading gives us the example of a football coach. If the team wins, people say, great coach, what a genius. If the team loses, people say, bad coach, no talent, failure. But in reality, of course, the result is not the whole process. Maybe the coach had limited information. Maybe there are injuries. Maybe there was pressure. Maybe the decision was reasonable, but the result was still bad. And this matters because when people are judged only on results, they become afraid. They stop trying things. They hide. They choose the safe answer. But in reality, a result is not the whole process. So here's the next question. If the story we tell matters so much, what keeps people going? What helps people not give up? And that brings us to the second theory for today. Self-determination theory. What keeps people going? Self-determination theory says that people are more likely to continue to be motivated when three basic needs are met. The first is autonomy, and this means I have some choice. Not total freedom, not I can do anything, but some feeling that I am choosing my actions. The second is competence. That means I feel like I can improve. Not I'm already perfect, but I can get better. The third is relatedness. That means I feel connected. I am not alone. I belong here. In very simple words, choice, growth, connection. Now think about the word talent again. What happens when these three things are missing? If there's no autonomy, I might feel I'm only doing this because someone told me to. If there's no competence, I might feel I'm not improving. I'm just not talented. If there's no relatedness, I might feel if I try and fail, people will judge me. So a good learning environment doesn't just say, try harder. That's not enough. A good learning environment helps people feel I have some choice. I can improve. I'm not alone. So we shouldn't just search for talent. We should build conditions and environments for growth. And this is really important, because if we want people to grow, we cannot just look for talented people. We need to create conditions where people can continue to act, keep trying, and keep learning. So let's come back to HIKAKIN again. He says something else that really fits the topic for today. He says that instead of trying to hit one big home run, he chose to keep hitting small hits again and again. Not one big home run, small hits again and again. I think that's a powerful image, because a talent story says one amazing person made one amazing hit. But a process story says small hits repeated over time can become something powerful. And that's true in YouTube, but it's also true in language learning, in projects, in creativity, in leadership, in relationships. Maybe growth does not always feel like one big breakthrough. Maybe it often feels like lots of small hits again and again. Now here's another example from the creative industry. When we watch a Pixar movie, it can almost look perfect. The story, the emotion, the animation, the final result. And when we see the final result, it's easy to think the people that created this film are geniuses. But one important lesson from Pixar is that the first version is often bad. The final version hides the broken first version. Creative work doesn't appear fully formed or fully finished. It goes through drafts, feedback, cuts, rebuilding, bad ideas, better ideas. So again, if we only focus on talent, we miss the process. The first version is not the final version. And this is not only about people, but it's also about culture. Some companies and teams create environments where people have room to try things, where they can build something, test something, share something, learn something. And that kind of culture supports autonomy, confidence, and relatedness. And that's the point. Success is not only about talented people. It's also about the kind of environment that helps people keep moving. So let's pull this together. When we say talent, we should be careful. Talent can sound like praise, but it can also hide the process. It can make success look natural. It can make failure look personal. And it can make other people's growth feel far away from us. Talent can hide the process. Today we looked at two theories about the stories we tell ourselves about success and failure. Attribution theory helps us to see the story. When something goes well, or when something goes really badly, what explanation do we give? Do we say, they have talent, I have no talent, I can't change this result? Or do we say, that can change, I can make effort, they made effort? Of course, the result matters, success or failure. But the story we attach to the results matters too. Self-determination theory helps us to think about the conditions around that story. Do people feel that they have some choice? Do they feel that they can improve? Do they feel connected to others around them? Because if those conditions are missing, it becomes much easier to say, I'm just not talented, and it's much harder to keep going. So instead of asking, do I have talent? Maybe we can ask different questions. What process am I not seeing? What can I change? What support would help? And what is one small step? That is what it means to rethink talent. Not denying talent, but refusing to let the word talent end the conversation. Talent is a label. Learning is a process. And that's the main takeaway for this week. Talent is a label, learning is a process. A label is simple. Process is more interesting. A label says she is talented. He has no talent. I'm not that kind of person. A process says, what happened? What was hidden? What helped? What was missing? What could change? And what comes next? When we think in labels, like talent, people become fixed. When we think in processes, people can move. They can practice, they can ask, they can fail and adjust, they can find support, they can grow. So this week, when you see someone succeed, don't stop at they are talented. Ask, what process did they go through to achieve that success? And when you struggle, don't stop at I have no talent. Ask, what story am I telling? What can I change? What support do I need? And what small action can I try next? So when we meet together in the workshop class, we are going to look at stories. We're going to look at situations. Someone is good at English. Someone started a project. Someone gave up after one try. Someone became a leader. Someone said, I'm just not creative. And instead of stopping at the easy label, either talented or untalented, we're going to investigate. We'll ask what happened. What is the easy talent story? What is the more difficult, hidden process that we might not see? What attribution is being made? Is it fixed or changeable? What is a better question, and what kind of support would help?